Hi, guys. Welcome back to Get Wealthy with Me, another episode of Storytelling with Money. Everybody has a money story, and somewhere in our story, there's money, but it is just basically shooting the shit with somebody that I love and have great energy with. And we're going to hear about their life, their money story, and we're going to incorporate my money story, my life, my poverty to prosperity, growing up in the Bronx kind of thing. And today we have Desiree. I am not even going to tell you a lot about her because she's going to tell you herself. Hey, girl.
Hi. Well, thank you for having me here. And like I had told you before, my journey with money is definitely bipolar. So I'm
I
excited to
like
talk
that.
about that today. And I grew up on a dirt road. It's called a holler in West Virginia. So I always say if you weren't so poor that you had to grow your food for survival, don't talk to me about, having it rough. So I'm excited to be here. I'm the CEO of the Desired Group. I work with a lot of nonprofits, but my passion and my baby is the Youth Poetry Summit. I do it every year. I bring in multiple facilitators and we teach these students how to have self esteem, public speaking,
Awesome.
creative writing for their mental health, and they teach them how to journal. And then we have a competition and we give away college scholarships. So,
So, is that what we call the Youth Summit? Is that what's
yes.
happening?
So, April is National Poetry Month. So,
Ooh, I didn't know that.
yeah, so in order to honor this, I started the National Poetry Month Youth Summit. It's the third year, so we do this annually. It's April 26th at the Riviera Beach Marina, and it is open to the public, and it's completely free. It's for middle school and high school students, but from 1 to 3, the whole community can come out and watch these kids compete for college scholarships.
Chala, I think we need to cut some shorts on this. So maybe we could send it to some of the high schools and, let them know about it. Maybe a commercial. What do you think? You don't have a mic, right? Why don't you have a mic? You used to. We've been talking about you getting a bike for like how many episodes already? You see, she
Hmm.
doesn't want to have a mic. We're gonna have to work on that, right, Desiree? She needs a mic.
Aren't you the producer? Okay.
Like, I mean, Howard Stern. We need her to talk to us, right?
Right.
Like, yeah,
Come on.
she's like does
No.
not like to be in front of the camera. But we need to promote Desiree's Youth Summit because the youth is the future, right? That's what you're concentrating on.
Absolutely. And some of these students that I work with, at the beginning, they can't give you eye contact because a lot of nonprofits will actually contract me in to come in and work with them sometimes over spring break, summer break, multiple times throughout the year. And I'm sure you've seen this. Like they scroll on their phone,
Yep.
but it's really about giving them a voice and letting them feel seen and heard and also safe. Like especially during the pandemic, I just noticed the decline in even literacy. So we're literally doing all of this through one program. When I started doing creative writing and poetry workshops maybe 15 years ago, I was a poetry facilitator. Then I became their mentor. Then I became their mental health therapist. And literally now I'm their tutor because the decline in literacy, it's just so significant. So it's all this wrapped into one program.
So, what made you decide on the making it a poetry? Do you what do you believe in writing? Because I'm a CPA, so math is my thing, and that's the language I speak, and I
Right.
could tell many stories with numbers.
Right.
But I always have this kindred spirit with someone who does with words. It's just words is amazing, and what I'm learning is they go hand in hand. So why did you pick poetry?
I think poetry picked me, but I know
I like
why.
that.
I know why I feel so strongly about it is because there's simply power in the tongue. You can speak life and you can speak death. And I'm teaching these kids about positive affirmations. I'm teaching them how to literally speak their goals and believe in it, but also to write the noise out of their minds. Like so many things are happening. I feel so bad for the way that they're growing up now and just how
Yep.
society is. So I literally teach them how to do a brain dump, how to sit there with their journal and just write. Sometimes things bother us and we carry it around and we don't even realize it until we sit still and we listen to what's in our mind and we write it out.
We write it
So
out.
I
Yeah.
teach them how to therapeutically write. I teach them the importance and the power of journaling. Like if you have a great day, write about that in your journal. So when you're having a day that's not the best, you can go back and reflect and think about how you felt in those moments.
Yep.
So So, anyways, I don't think poetry. I didn't pick poetry. Poetry picked
Pick
me.
you.
Yep.
So my question on that is, so that explains how that works. I think math picked me too. So, um, I think when my dad put the checking account in front of me, I'm like, okay, you need to balance this. That was it. Like at 14 years old, that
And
was
you
it.
loved it, right?
I did because numbers was always my thing. But just like how you feel about literacy in terms of reading,
Hmm.
I feel financial literacy is freedom also.
It is. It is because these kids grow up and they don't know the things that those in middle class America, those in the wealthy families, they don't have that same access. They're not taught the things that you just grow up knowing and seeing and believing in. So it
Right.
is very important that you teach them about financial literacy.
So my main program for what I'm working on, and I know we've talked, but we try to get all of out it our conversations out on our podcast because I think it's really good. Storytelling actually helps you to understand what's important.
Right.
So one of the things, so when I started on my journey
Hmm.
with financial literacy, I've thought about it for a while, being a tax accountant, being a CPA, being in the corporate world, and I'm always had that philanthropic background because I used to work for the American Red Cross in their accounting
Hmm.
department, and I've done so many like non-for-profit charters. I cannot tell you how much. And so my thoughts always comes back to like, yes, it's not thought that I have a helping profession, right? Like you're talking about money, you're dealing with money all the time. That's not helping. But I really, really think
Yes, it is.
it's part of the wellness track, right?
Right. It's
Like
financial freedom. You're
financial
teaching them about
freedom.
financial freedom and how to invest. I wish someone would have told me in my early 20s to invest. Like, I just started a few years ago. I am way behind. Like, I know I talked to you about the account I
Yep.
want to start for my family and my children. You got to teach me that because,
We're gonna work on it, girl.
God forbid, I'm not here. I want to know that they have money to fall back on. And that's what's really, divides those that don't know how to use that power.
So I want to talk to you more about that because I always tell the story when I'm talking to people, right? I always tell the story where my dad taught us how to save because from an immigrant family, because just believe it or not, I came to this country to New York when I was 9 years old. And just like how you grew up in West Virginia, and what's the name of the road that you were talking about?
Well, the road is Teacher Road, but the population where I'm from is like 1,800 people, and my family as well were first generations. Like my father was first generation Italian,
Mhm.
so they came from humble beginnings. People literally came to West Virginia to work in the coal mines from
The coal
Italy.
mines, yeah. Hmm.
So
So while my parents, my dad grew up in a farming town in Guyana,
okay,
right? So they come from Guyana, but my grandparents used to have cattle and horses. They had a house that was the wall was made from mud.
okay,
So their first house, I don't remember that house. My mom and my dad tells me about it, but the house was made from mud. There was no running water. I do remember.
did you have to pump a well, or
I
did you
had
have?
to go to the front of the street.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember this. I was 9 when we came to New York, but I still remember vaguely. But I
Uh
remember having to take my bucket
huh.
and go to the front of the street and get the water from the well and bring it in.
Yeah, my grandmother's parents' house, because the way where our house was, that whole holler was family, and the old home place they called it. It had a well where
All get their
they used
water.
to had to pump it, and then it had an outhouse too
Yep.
because there was no inside
No.
plumbing. So I
Yep.
can relate, and I have a lot of friends that are from different islands, and
Yes.
we really click because we talk about some of the stuff. I mean, I was 8 years old plowing potatoes.
Yeah.
Okay. Like my work ethic came from coming from the country, living below poverty.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So you call it a holler. What's a holler?
A holler is in between two, like, not well, it's not necessarily mountains because mountains are high, but two hills.
Two hills,
So
maybe plateaus.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so in between the two hills is a holler. And
So it's
that's
like a
where,
valley.
yes,
Right.
it's a
Okay.
valley in the country. That's
Okay.
what a holler is.
I just learned something. Chala, look at that.
Yep.
We know what a holler is. It's not a holler. It's a holla, right?
Holler. Well, it depends on your accent because I've been here 20 years now
In
in
Florida.
Florida.
Uh-huh.
So there's certain words that my grandmother would pronounce that I had to really learn how to say them correctly.
Yes, I know.
So like it was a washing machine, not a washing
Yes.
machine. Like there were certain words
Yep,
like
absolutely.
they don't even say Italian, they say Italian.
Italian.
Yeah. So
Did you ever watch Archie Bunker on All in the Family?
oh yeah.
Yeah. He's the Italian man,
Yes,
okay?
yeah. So they say Italians, they say washing machine instead of hiring is hurring. Like so
Yes.
it's a holler.
It's a holler.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Or
right.
holla. No, holler. See, now I'm questioning. It's a
Yeah.
holler. It's a holler.
All right, we're gonna have to look that up. You guys, if you're watching, look it up and put in the comments. What is it? Is a holler or it's a holla? Or we can't say chala because that's bread. But anyways, so going back to that, right? So
Mhm.
I think like I'm gonna get a little political now, right?
Uh-oh.
Because I want for normal quote unquote Americans to kind of understand
Mm-hmm.
how it is. Like for me, I'm a very independent person. I don't belong to any political party.
Right.
Because I'm very fiscally conservative when it comes to money, but socially I'm very moderate, right? Because I understand what people's lives have been
So
through.
you're a normal American. That's
I'm
what I'm
normal.
hearing.
Yes.
You're not. I don't even like to use the word normal, but you're in the middle where I
Yes.
feel
Most
most of
Americans
us are,
yes.
but nobody represents that.
Nobody represents
Yeah.
that. We're swinging. I call it swinging on Tarzan's tree because we're either all the way on one side and all the way on the other side, but most of us are in the middle. So I don't get it.
And nobody represents us. And I will
Nobody
say
represents
this,
us.
you know, because I'm in sales and in the different professions I've been in, you have to be careful when people start asking you
Right.
your political views. And when people used to say, "Are you Republican or Democrat?" I'd say, "I'm pissed. I'm pissed. This is what I have to
Yes,
choose from."
Absolutely.
I'm really pissed because in this country, there has to be someone more suited for the office. I would not pick somebody with this demeanor or somebody that in that certain age to run my company. Why would I pick them to run my country? And what I have found is politics is so grimy
Grimy.
that
Everywhere.
the people that should really be in office won't even attempt it, because I can't tell you how many people that have asked me to run for office. I have the most amazing husband. He will support anything I want to do. If I'm like, I'm going to do a poetry show on the moon, he's like, okay, baby, let's get you that rocket. But you know one thing?
That's awesome.
When people started asking me to run for office, he said, I'll divorce you.
Oh.
Because he said we wouldn't even be able to go to a grocery store. And
Yeah.
that's the truth. And the
Yeah.
people that would
It gets
really
nasty.
make a difference, that would really come in there and push policies that would help most of us, they're not even going to get tied up into the
They're not going to do it. And I don't blame them, but I'm never going to stop fighting for what I believe in.
right.
And I can't, we talk about, cuz I watch a lot of CNBC cuz I'm a big, like I financial news is my
Right.
thing, right? So, and on CNBC we talk a lot about the power of the purse, right? The power of the purse. So Congress
There's another power of a P.
we won't
Sorry.
we can't talk about that right now. But so my point is, right, is that that's my thing, numbers, right?
Right.
And the power of the purse. One of the things when I first came here at 9 years old and I was learning American history, I knew what made America great was checks and balances. So anytime anybody said anything about anything, I'd be like, I'm not worried, because if you look at any other country in the world, they have all the same issues that we do, but we have checks and balances.
Mm-hmm.
And if you understand macroeconomics and you understand our government, then you understand checks and balances, and it's going to all work out because we check on each other. Right?
Okay.
I'm worried about that right now. I'm really worried about it.
I was about to ask you.
I'm really worried about it, but the one thing that it's getting to me a little bit is, we talk about DEI and stuff like that. So don't get me wrong, I've worked for everything. I mean, my dad came with $100 in his pocket. We grew up in the South Bronx. Me and my sisters went to public school. We got robbed. We got mugged. We got pickpocketed. We got, cars broken into. Like everything you can think about growing up in the ghetto.
Right.
That's happened. But yet I live here in Wellington, Florida, and I'm a self-made millionaire, right? Like small but self.
Yeah.
So that didn't that came with sweat and tears. But let me tell you, when I was saving my dollars, my dad used to say, "Okay, here's $3, right? You put $2 away for savings, and you can $1 you can spend, maybe $50, 50 cents you give to church, right?" So we were always went to church. We always did our thing. But if he had said to me, if it was available to him to say, "Okay, daughter, take your $2 and buy yourself a Disney stock, or buy yourself I don't know, a Kodak, whatever was available in that time," right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, I would be a self-made billionaire.
Yeah.
But the knowledge was not available.
No.
It was not available to me. And I know people would say, and I want your opinion on this. I know people would say, well, we have all of this now in the information superhighway. Honestly, my personal opinion is less available now because it's so noisy. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I
Because you
was
work with youth.
no, absolutely. Um, the way I was brought up, though, just to go back to how you were brought up,
Right.
if you couldn't afford it, you didn't buy it. You didn't have it. We didn't use credit. Like it was literally we learned how to barter, and I love the bartering system. But what I wish I was taught is not only to save, but to invest. Like you
Right.
said, I was never taught to invest. And what I would do is I would hoard my money.
Yep.
Like I told you,
Mattress stuffing.
yeah, stuffing on. I have a poem where I talk about stuffing the money under the mattress.
Yep.
And it's because that's what we were taught to do because
Yep.
of an emergency. And had I taken that money and invested it,
Didn't we have this conversation?
we
Like,
did. We did. And I still think about it. I went home and called my husband. I was like, you know the money I saved from our wedding that I still have? And we've been married 14 years. And he was like, yeah. I said, I had the conversation with you. And then I went on to ChatGPT because I love to do budgets, but I'm not good with my numbers like you are. And I was like,
we have solutions for that. We're
if
gonna
I
work on
took
it.
X amount of dollars and I had invested it for X amount of years, how much money would I have? I wanted to throw up. I was like, oh my gosh.
See, I wasn't lying.
No.
Even if you were conservative about the investment, that's why I tell my immigrant families out there, or my poorer underserved, I call them underserved families, that, you know, if you're saving it under the mattress, you're losing, because we have inflation. And if your money is not invested at the rate of inflation, your eggs are going to cost 10.99 a dozen right now. So you have to be able to understand the time value of money. And that was something that is not available. That knowledge, that teaching, it is not available to underserved community at all.
I would have been investing that. I had a job. My first job was I was 13 years old. I was playing piano at an Italian restaurant, and then I
Ooh.
started teaching piano. Okay. At 15, I went and got a worker's permit, and I went to work at 15. By my senior year in high school, I had 2 jobs. I have worked my entire life. Had I saved
Even $2 each time. I'm telling you.
yes,
But this knowledge, to me, was not available to us then. My parents did not know how to do that.
the wealthy kept it to themselves. They didn't want us
They-
to
no.
know and crawl our ways into the next tax bracket.
But do you know, I feel like that's happening now too. Because there's so much noise out there. When I talk to kids, when I talk to other adults about money and stuff like that, is they tell me that they don't know what to believe. Because
Right.
it is so noisy. If you go on TikTok, they want to sell you something in 3 hacks, or you cannot do it like that. It's you. Yes, you might hear something like, clients send me stuff all the time. Oh, I saw this. This guy says I don't have to, if I set up an LLC, I don't have to pay any tax. I'm like, no. You don't have to pay any tax in the LLC, but you have to pay a tax in the individual, because it all goes, so it's if it sounds too good to be true, it is. What does that mean? That means that you have to investigate I'm not saying leave it. I'm
Right.
saying, okay, something sparks your brain. Look into that. I'm telling the younger
Investigate
kids.
it. Investigate it.
Your people, your kids that you're working with, I'm telling them, investigate it. Look at it. Like, there's something to it. There is a way to crawl out of these places. I crawled out of the South Bronx.
Listen,
You crawled out of near Morgantown.
Yeah, when my grandmother came, I saved and saved and saved so we could buy our, our house. It was our first house. And everybody says your first house has to be your starter house, right? Well, I live in Riviera Beach, right? And when I found my home, even my realtor did not want to show it to me because of the zip code it was in. It's a gated community. I could afford it. It was my dream house. I don't think I'm ever going to leave there. I had a saltwater pool, 4 bedrooms, 2-car garage. I love my home. Coming from a small farmhouse that's 125 years old, when my grandmother came to my house for the first time, she called everybody back home, Desiree's at a mansion. Like, to her, it was a mansion. It was a mansion. And it's like, and I'm so grateful I did not listen to the realtor at the time because my house is tripled.
Yep.
Riviera Beach is booming.
Yep.
And my gated community that I will add, my one neighbor is the he just left Kansas City Chiefs after 8 years, the defensive assistant coach. Another neighbor is a retired NFL player. My other neighbor is an attorney. I love my community.
Wow.
And that's why I also do my youth summit in Riviera Beach, is because I love how it's big and small enough to where I know the police chief. I can call him if I need to. I know the council people. I know the mayor. I know, you know what I mean? It's
you have
like
the whole diverse.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I'm really excited to see what's happening there. But my grandmother was like, she couldn't believe,
It's perspective.
Yeah, because I mean, when I first started out working, I think minimum wage was $3.75 an hour.
That's about what it was. Yes, I agree. Because you were.
We couldn't buy an egg right now. Like,
we can't buy an egg right now.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? $3.75 is that might get you one egg. Actually,
no. Yeah. I think 2 eggs. You can get 3 eggs.
I seen
not
something,
a dozen.
I seen something so funny the other day. I know everybody probably seen the same post, but it said, "Remember when you bought your eggs in the store and weed on the street?"
I did not see that. I like it though.
I'm like, yeah, it's like, right. You can go into what looks like an Apple store now and buy weed, even though there's still people in prison for that, which that's a whole nother subject.
That's a whole nother subject.
And you gotta
especially in Florida.
You gotta buy your eggs on the street. My daughter just bought chickens. She bought little baby chickens. Like, literally.
Yeah, because she's going to get her own eggs. Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
And that's how we grew up. And the reason my grandmother had 11 brothers and sisters, my grandfather had 13. The reason they survived the Depression and being below poverty is because they were self-sufficient.
Yes.
We had farms. We had cattle. We had chickens. We had gardens. We literally picked berries. We canned fruit. We made our own clothes.
But that's the thing. So my son and I always have this conversation. Growing up in the ghetto and growing up in like a farm in a poor, underserved area, that's the big difference. So when you're growing up in the ghetto, we don't have any of that, right? We don't have...
You have food deserts.
Yeah, we don't, like our grocery store, I cannot tell you. We could not be self-sufficient. Although my parents came from a farming town, right? So we had like a little backyard. My mom and dad are gardeners to the T. We would still go fishing. Like, I mean, I don't know if I would ever want to. I hated fishing. Like, my dad was fishing all the time because that's what they were used to.
Right.
So they're used to being self-sufficient. But I think that some of the underserved communities now that we are used to seeing with these young people is they're not given those opportunities to do those things. That's why I do like community gardens and stuff like that.
Right.
Because I actually think that the food that we're eating is killing us. That's a whole other story.
It absolutely is, because they let them put things in our food that is illegal in other countries.
Yes.
Like when I go out of the U.S. and I go to Italy or Spain, I can eat anything and I don't get sick.
You don't get sick. Yeah.
Here, everything makes me sick.
Because there's so much crap in it.
And they allow that. And that goes back to the politicians.
Yep.
That goes back to the lobbyists and what they support and who they support. And then, oh, yeah, go ahead and put that chemical in there that's going to give them cancer.
Yep.
It's crazy what we allow money to control.
So that's my thing, right? One of my sayings is everything matters, right? So when I say that, nothing is as simple as people think it is. Like, people go back and they say, they're like, okay, let's do this, let's do that. You can't just let's do this. You got to think about the long-term effects of it. Like, if you're going to make pasta cheap, right? Mm-hmm. What are we putting in that pasta? That's killing us, So you have to consider what you're doing, what the ramifications are, what are, what's plan A, what's plan B. And I feel like we're not doing that anymore. We're just doing stuff
It's
haphazardly.
all about the bottom line. It's all about capitalism now. It's crazy. And so you started to talk about politics. What do you feel about the tariffs?
Politically or economically.
I guess both.
All
I
right.
know you're the host, but now I'm asking you the question.
Sure. I love questions. So my thoughts political, and we've had some videos on this actually.
Okay.
My thoughts on tariffs, which is what you learn in economics, right?
Mhm.
Economics is basic. If you're somebody has to pay it. So I don't. I'm gonna give you something that a synonym to, or a comparison.
Okay.
Okay. For example, us in Florida down here, we had all these hurricanes, and all of our insurance
Mm-hmm.
is like more than our mortgage. And it had gotten really bad a couple of years ago. Well, I'm telling you, like maybe about 6, 7, 8 years ago, I saw this. I saw all these roofing companies, attorneys, whoever, soliciting, knocking on my door,
Mhm.
sure, knocking on your door,
Fraud.
wanting to get us a free roof because they want to sue our insurance company, and they're going to charge them $100,000 when the roof is like 30,000, and everybody's getting their free roof. They're like, oh, we don't have to do anything. It's a free roof. Yeah, a storm come through with whatever. They can brainwash you to do it. And I told my husband, because there were people in my family, I shall not mention names, that have done that. And I'm like, listen, you guys don't understand. Nothing is for free. It
Yep.
might not cost you monetarily right now, but it will cost you more. If it's cost you your life, that's priceless, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you can't even put a number on that. So it's the same thing with the tariffs. My thoughts are, if you're gonna, I'm gonna give you an example of what happened years and years ago, a few years ago, and I'm not even gonna get really political. We went on and we put a tariff on China when it came to soybeans.
Okay.
Us in America, and you're from a farming town, so maybe not a soybean farming town, but you will understand that. So I did a case study on this.
Mm-hmm.
So it was on these farmers in Georgia that they had big soybean farms.
Okay.
So because we tariffed the soybeans, we were putting an extra tax on it to when it's going out. Um, China decided they weren't going to buy soybeans from us anymore. So now all the farmers that had soybeans farming, we had to supplement them as government. So I know people call welfare, aid, all these different things. But if you're going to supplement farmers, that's welfare. So you have to give them money, or you have to supplement them to give them money to get them through hard times.
Right.
That's the same thing as a mom who's going through a hard time needing an extra thing. Now, I'm not a big deal for generational welfare or anything like that. That's why I moved out of New York City, because that was totally taking advantage of the situation.
Right.
So these farmers now will get welfare. The government said, we're going to give you guys the money to supplement you while we're waiting for China to get to their whatever to buy soybeans. Well, guess what China did? China's like, all right, I'm going to wait you out. We're going to go to Brazil and we're going to buy soybeans from Brazil. We waited them out, and China never came back to buy soybeans from our farmers. I mean, I haven't looked at the case in a year or so, but now we have farmers in Georgia that we are going to be supplemented for life unless they have soybeans.
Are you sure that that's not something that Doge is going to get rid of?
They might get rid of it, but what's going to happen to those farmers?
Exactly.
So all of these things are a domino effect, because now whoever was buying the stuff from us, right? They're buying it from Brazil. They found it cheaper there. So you let them go buy it in Brazil. You think once you say, okay, you can come back and buy it from us, they're going to come back to buy it from us? They've already gotten used to getting it somewhere else.
Right.
So that's the other thing. Like, if we're going to get political, we're going to get political with this conversation. Because when I grew up, and I'm sure we're not that different in age. She's younger than me, by example. Gorgeous younger. And is when I was going to school, it was during the Cold War, right? When we were in high school, it was Russia and America.
Okay.
And we knew America was the big thing. We were the thing. Russia was the Cold War, yes, but we were winning that war. It was cold, but we were winning. We were the big thing. We Globalization is here to save people. It is not going away. The world is much smaller. It is much smaller. Our companies can hire people somewhere else. We don't have people to work for the stuff that we're doing. You know, in Florida here, we have such a labor shortage. You know, I'm not even going to talk about that one. So,
Mm.
so my thoughts are is that nothing is as simple as people think it is. Everything affects everything. We are an interconnected world.
Right.
And if one thing happens one place, it affects the other place, it affects the other place, it affects the other place. We cannot live by ourselves. If you live in your family house by yourself, can you survive?
No.
You're not going to have water. Where are you going to get water from? The other family. You're not going to have electricity. How are you going to, if you live on your farm, you can be self-sufficient to some extent, but
Right.
how much better would you be if you got my knowledge with numbers and I got your knowledge with poetry and we do it together? How much more dynamic would that be?
No, that's the barter system.
But that's how we are interconnected. We
Right.
are more interconnected today.
Right.
Because we have to pay attention to China. We have to pay attention to India. We have to pay attention to Brazil. We have to pay attention to Europe. We are not standalone. We don't even have the education here to
We
do.
don't manufacture hardly anything here.
We don't manufacture even the people that we need. We have, like in my profession in accounting, we have such a pipeline issue. We literally talk about it all the time. We don't have enough people to do my job in STEM stuff, accounting, STEM.
So, with that being said, how much do you think AI is going to play a factor into that?
So I don't know if you know this, but they said when computers came about that it would take over accounting jobs and we wouldn't need accounting. I believe my real true opinion on AI is that honestly I like it because I'm not a writer, right? So I put all my jumble up thoughts when I'm writing an email.
Mhm.
Like, okay, I want to tell this. It organizes it for me. It organizes it for me and it tells me, okay, this is nicely how you say it in an order way. I
Mhm.
might not like a sentence or I might not like whatever it tells me.
Right.
I change that around and I send my email. If I want to write a letter, that would have taken me an hour because I'm not a writer.
Right.
Right? But it did it for me. So to me, if used properly, like everything else in the world, it is going to be a good thing for our society. It is going to take over the mundane tasks. And I actually think it's going to make us smarter because it's going to leave room in our brains to be thinking higher.
Right.
Right? Like I wouldn't have to do the debits and the credits in accounting anymore. I would be thinking of the strategies. How do I use my numbers to build myself? How do I use my numbers to maximize my profits and minimize my taxes? If I have enough time to do that, I will have enough time to do that if I'm not like adding things up, which I
Right.
don't need to.
Right.
So I think it's going to make us smarter. It's going to get us to think more critically. That's my opinion. It is going to get it. You can't get away from it. But yet again, I will go back to one of my mottos that says too much of anything is no good.
Right.
Even too much money. So no matter what you have, if you are eating something healthy, if you eat too much of it, it'll poison you.
Mm.
So it's the same thing with AI. If used properly, it can help. If it's used nefariously, it will be detrimental.
Have you asked Chat what your industry will be like in 10 years with AI?
I have not asked Chat, but I did a talk on it where I've done my own research.
Mhm.
I haven't gone to Chat GPT specifically, but we just did a talk to Miami University with young accounting students.
Okay.
And we are not very good in our profession in marketing our profession.
Mm.
Actually, you don't need to know calculus. You don't need to know AI. It's very basic mathematics that you need in finance and accounting. And we are not very good at marketing that. So you don't have to be like a calculus major to be an accounting major. It's
Mhm.
really simple. I mean, one of the bookkeepers I work with makes $500,000 a year and she doesn't even have an accounting degree.
Wow.
So there are
Wow.
so many mobilities and so many avenues that you can go with a degree in accounting, and you don't need to have a master's. I don't have a master's. You don't need to even have an associate. You can do so many different things. So I feel like in America, we're not letting our kids know, we're not teaching our kids in school all the things that they can do with the professions that we need.
Right.
We need that profession. You can't say, okay, American kids are bad with math, so you're not going to teach them that. There's various different kinds of math. There's accounting math, there's calculus math, there's geometry, there's statistics. Those are
Right.
all different umbrellas.
Right.
Somebody might be good with statistics, but not good with accounting, not good with debits and credits. Or they might be good with calculus, which doesn't even have numbers. Calculus don't have numbers in it. And, or they might be good with calculus, but they're not good with debits and credits. So
Yeah.
if we don't give that information to our kids, how are we going to produce the things that are needed?
Oh no, absolutely. Absolutely. It's
What
scary.
what you're teaching your kids, you're teaching them to think, you're teaching them to open, you're teaching them how to deal with their feelings, right? So one of the things, do you know how I talk about money as the emotional concept of it, right? There's more emotions in money. There's more that we emotions we put in money. Because money itself has no emotion. But we attach so much to it. We attach the way we grew up. So the way I teach money is called intentional money management, right? Whatever you're doing, it has to be intentional. We are all mindlessly using money.
Uh, a couple months ago, I started a money journal to
Mm-hmm.
really see what I was doing with money. So, like every time, and it was such a pain in the ass, I would go into my notes on my phone and I would write every time I spent money and how much. And I try to stay within my budget. See, I love budgets. So, that might be something that like how you are with numbers and everything else. Like I used to do budgets for like years. Like I would be like, okay, if I make this amount and I pay this amount and I save this amount, where am I going to be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Like I used to have just notebooks and just write budget
So
after
how did
budget
you
after.
say you're not a numbers person?
I guess I am when it comes. I'm a budgets person. Like that's what I
Well,
love.
that's the thing. I think we need to cultivate whatever it is that each person has in them.
Mhm.
So the way I teach, and Chala knows, when I spoke at the junior league, we there's three concepts I go into with intentional money management.
Okay.
And everything you have to do intentionally, but sometimes you can't get a person to think that way, right? So I don't teach budgeting. I call it a spending plan.
Mm.
I have you track what you did the last 3 months or the last 6 months, and then we look at that and we work your budget from that. Because we can sit there and do a Dave Ramsey thing and say, okay, put this money in an envelope, put that money in. That's mindless. That's not intentional. So what did you learn from that?
Right.
Right? We can keep force people to do all these things, but if they're not learning from it, they're gonna keep making that mistake. They're gonna keep, and it's not their fault.
Some people don't even know what they make, what they spend. I don't know how they live like that. I couldn't sleep if I didn't know what I was making and what I was
Because they don't want
spending.
to know, though.
I know. It's like they're out there just living reckless.
They're
I'm
not,
like,
but they're not.
mm-mm.
They're not. They're living mindless. I wouldn't even say it's reckless. I'd say mindless because they don't want to know. That's why I start off with saying, okay, let's track how much you're spending. So I'm developing an app for this. That's going to be part of my money, my wealth revolution. It's
Okay.
called. It's going to be the Rich Life Blueprint. That's the name of it, and it's the
Okay.
wealth revolution. And the app is going to have you track your spending, and then you do your budget from that. So this is what you did for the last 3 months. Is this what you wanted to do? And if it's not, you can change it.
Right.
So you can't tell me, oh no, that's not what I did. I'm like, oh, I can't that I can do this budget. This is what you did. This I'm not lying to you. I'm painting the picture that you used.
Hmm.
Right? Now that was mindless because if you tell me half of this is not true, you did it without thinking.
Right.
So now I'm asking you, take these numbers and think about it. If you don't want this anymore, move it to this. There might be things that you like that you did, move it over. There might be things that you want to change, move it over. So that's how I do it, a spending plan. The other part of that, a lot of people, so you have an immigrant mentality because you're all about the saving. You understand the saving.
Right.
But there's a few things that there's this other saying that I saw the other day that I really liked, and it said, "Making money is action." Um, I have to remember. Making money is action. Keeping money or saving money is behavior.
Okay.
But um, but making money grow is knowledge.
Mm.
So you can do work and make your money and that's your action, right?
Right.
Your behavior is what you're doing. You're saving your money, you're having good behavior, which a lot of immigrants do. That's how they buy houses on, lawnmower salaries. You know that. You see them all the time. I see them all the time. My parents were one of those people.
Right.
That they no matter what, they're buying their house. They're going to live on peanuts. I mean, rice and beans every day until they get their house. But they're not investing that money. It's saved under the mattress. So they're different access to different people. So different, depending on where you are on that money journey, that's what you need to learn. So like for me, people who are middle class that are doing the savings, that are doing the whatever, they need to start making money from their money. They need the knowledge.
Yeah.
And
there's fear. I think a lot of it is fear because like fear in not having the knowledge. Like there's certain things that I've been wanting to do, but then when certain people became in administration and I'm seeing what's happening to stocks and I'm seeing all these things, like it scares me. It's like, but then one thing that I have heard and I've learned, and I don't know if it's accurate or not, is when everything tanks like it is, that's when you buy.
That's when you buy, girl.
So I need you to teach me how to buy because it's tanking right now. So I'm ready. Like I'm ready to take the money under the mattress. Nobody robbed me. It's just hypothetical. I do not have money under my mattress, but
it's in a bank, but it's earning 0% interest, just so you know. Well, Desiree and I are going to have our own money journey together.
Yes.
Because Chala's telling us that we're almost running out of time. So she's going to have to come back on the podcast because we're going to have to talk more about
You
this.
need to teach me some things. I want to learn how to open up the account for the kids.
You'll see how easy it is. You're going to be like, front, that's it.
And I'll be like, why didn't I do this? And then I do have a question because I just recently took a new career, a new employment, and I have my old 401k. And it's like, do I leave it where it is? Or do I roll it into the new 401k? Like,
so I have thoughts on that.
Okay.
And that's actually a question that I get all the time.
Okay.
So it kind of depends, right? One, is your old company going to charge you any fees for that?
It's like $4 a month.
Or some companies make you move it, right? So you would have to check on that.
I don't have to move it, but it's $4 a month. And the thing is, I had a friend that was like experienced in this and she set that up for me.
Right.
So it did pretty good. And I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm scared to put it over to the other one because I just, clicked a bunch of buttons. I don't know what I did,
So my, and when we start working on something, we can look at it. But my financial advisors friends that are watching this might not like this, but I have 401ks in 3 different places.
Okay.
And I don't necessarily believe in putting all my money in one place because I have this thing about financial advisors that are wealth managers that it's a perspective that you have, right? And I like having the different perspectives. So I personally would leave it where it is for now if they let me do it.
Okay.
And see what happens.
Right.
Unless it's like, you want to move it all, but make sure you're tracking it. Make sure you have it somewhere where in case something happens to you, your people knows where to go get it.
Right.
Make sure it has all the beneficiaries on it. Please make sure you guys have beneficiaries.
I actually have to do that.
Make sure you have. That's another conversation we really need to have about probate.
Yes.
We're going to have that conversation.
I got to come back because we got like 47 seconds left.
Yes. Guess what? Chala's going to tell us that we have to stop talking. But Desiree and I don't have pregnant pauses, as you can see. We're going to come back because we're going to hear more about. We're going to probably have to come back and hear more about how the Youth Summit goes, right? So can you tell us, do your last plug on the Youth Summit? Tell us when it is. You have 30 seconds. Go.
Okay. First of all, find me on Instagram at The Desired Group, and you will see my flyers there. You'll also see the page for the National Poetry Youth Summit. It is April 26th, Riviera Beach Marina. It's from 9 to 3. From 9 to noon is only for students, so please don't show up unless you need a volunteer. And I'm also still looking for sponsors. And the public it's open to the public from 1 to 3 p.m.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us with Get Wealthy with Me. And we will be here again to talk about another money story with someone new so you guys can learn and bring back Desiree.